Yep, it should be good to go now.
All right, this is the mayor manager meeting at 7:49 a.m. on Wednesday, it's the 18th. Oh my gosh. And in the Teams meeting is Linda Olson, Allison McKinney Brown, Jade Truscott Reed, Nathaniel Sierra, and Shawn Lewis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I will start with the 23rd of November. We've got it's a study session, and the first topic is sustainability strategies. This is going to be Tim going over really the strategies and programs to support the items in your strategic plan, which include energy efficiency and a couple other things, and just how we create a culture of sustainability. And then the next topic is the 2020 Economic Development Update, and Darren Hollingsworth and Brad will be leading that. Snow and Ice Policy Overview by Public Works. Title 7, Chapter 7, Public Aid, Mutual Aid, and Emergency Response by the legal team. Wayfinding and Placemaking Master Plan Update by Chris Hargath, and Quarterly Strategic Plan Update by yours truly. Looks like we've got time slots allotted to those.
Yeah, we did those last week, didn't we? Or the week before even.
Yeah.
I think they're still good.
Okay. December 7th, we've got 3 study session items. Recommendation on next steps from Citizens Committee for Organized Waste and Recycling Collection, Walkability in Inglewood, and the 2020 financial review, and October 2020, and the 2020 budget supplemental preview are the 3 updates. And looks like we didn't assign discussion time to the trash collection item.
So that one was a new item that was just added on within the last week. So I know we had also talked about the fact that we weren't sure if we really wanted to add more than walkability and the financial review due to how long the meeting currently is. I'm happy to keep this one on here. This was the date that the staff requested. However, if we need to move it to somewhere else, we can look at further dates.
Yeah, and just to give Linda and Nathaniel a little bit more background. So the Trash Collection Committee has recommended unanimously, I think twice in 2 different meetings, that we go out for another RFP or put out another RFP to try to get a little bit different and yet more consistent bids from companies. And so, as you know, we have 2 in hand. Council would have to cancel those out or reject those, and then authorize staff to issue another one. So I think Maria DeAndre was thinking that time was of the essence on this in order to, get more information earlier in the year for next year.
I think it is true that we got to get this in. Will the bids that came in, those are now public documents to anybody who wants to rebid it, right?
Yes, they are.
Oh, well.
Well, actually, I should defer that to Allison, but I believe they are.
Unless there's information within them that has been declared private, they're open. But the thing is I'm not sure how helpful that would be to any bidder, because what the committee's wanting is to actually set different terms, which would, even these bidders would have to go back and reevaluate based upon the new terms that are being asked for. So I think it's fine.
Well, I hope they come back with better bids. I mean, that's the goal, right? And they want more than 2 probably.
Yeah, definitely. And the committee also wants to make some fundamental policy decisions that I think that this discussion that we would have at a study session would allow staff to brief council on. Things like, you must use the alley, because both of the vendors said, oh yeah, we could save a lot of money if we didn't have to do both alley and street. And so, Yeah, there are some questions that I think staff wants to go over with you all before we rebid this, because the new RFP would be a policy shift to some degree, potentially.
Okay.
By
That
the way,
sounds good.
I'd say we could move walkability. Walkability
Yeah,
could be
we
moved to
can
the
move
first of the
walkability.
year,
Yeah.
after the first year, if you would like.
I think that's what we should do. Just move walkability. We've got finance, and so we have student art that night too. So, which do we know what the format of that is going to be? But I'm fine with moving walkability. Nathaniel, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I'm just, certainly you can do all three if you want. I'm just suggesting that if you want to move something, that one is definitely movable.
Well, how much more is down on the regular meeting? Is there a lot here?
It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's quite a thing.
Oh, no, it's painful. Yeah, no, let's just do. So it would just be finance and waste collection, right?
Correct.
And then during the meeting, we have this art calendar recognition thing that happens at the beginning that can take time.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there really a lot on that for the 7th though?
Well, it depends on how we do that art calendar recognition.
There's a second. I'll take a look and then make my comment afterwards. I'm looking now.
So we have 4 motions, 3 resolutions, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 first readings. The second readings, I'm hoping, which are 3 of them, will be on consent. And then we also have the return to in-person meeting discussion as well.
That ought to be fun. Yeah. We can move walkability to January.
Okay.
It's
Great.
trading one environmentally focused thing for another. Trash is like, I cannot believe how many people have asked me recently, when are we going to do this? When are you going to start this? They want it.
I made the mistake of telling some Inglewood friends that the city was discussing it, and so I'm getting the same questions.
Yeah. Well, apparently last week, some neighborhoods had 3, 4, 5 trucks come down and within a couple days, and then because they're home, because their kids are home, they're noticing it.
Okay.
I'm not sure why my computer turned off, but I'm back.
What was
Jade,
that?
My computer turned off for no reason just now, so I'm not sure if you guys noticed. But I'm back.
I didn't notice. Sorry.
That's fine.
so Jade, you've got that just in the parking lot for now?
I do. I moved it temporarily to January 11th.
So looking at, Mayor, you mentioned the student art calendar recognition. I don't think that's going to take a long time.
So are we doing an event with them? Last year, we've always done these events. So I'm assuming, I mean, we posted or had up in front of everybody all the different arts. I'm assuming that is not what this is. This is just our traditional, they all come and we welcome them.
Right.
But I don't know how that, yeah. Are we going to recognize each of them individually or?
Yes, but unless you want them to speak, I don't think it would take too long.
Well, are there only 13 slides to show? That's probably true, right? Could we just spend like 10 seconds on each slide? It's just a minute and just give their name and then thank them. I can work with Krista. Is Krista doing this or who's doing this? Chris?
Yes, it's the communications department.
Okay. Let me talk with him about it. I would like them to be seen, and it might not be very long. The whole thing could end up being 5 minutes or 10. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Tell Chris, give me a call and we'll work on it.
Okay.
I really like that art thing. I think it's really important for the kids.
Yes. Okay, so we've got our first motion is a recommendation to award a contract to HS3 for security cameras. Award of contract to Wilson and Company for design engineering services for Oxford Bridge. And a motion to approve transit shuttle services operations contract with MV Transportation. Motion to approve a utility billing software contract with Cogsdale. A resolution to contract for contract renewal agreement for on-call engineering services with EST Incorporated. And that's for on-call engineering services. A contract renewal for on-call with Stanley Consultants for engineering services. Purchasing agreement with WatchGuard body-worn cameras. So we have made a decision on that and are ready to come back to you all. Since we already had a study session on this, we just went ahead and put this on your agenda. Is that okay with you?
Which one?
This is for body cameras.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of testing with a lot of companies and have settled on this one.
Yeah, that doesn't need to come back to us, I don't believe at all. Is this being done in coordination with other jurisdictions to get a good deal, or is it not that kind of a deal now?
No, it is not.
Okay.
I know.
Just sure we have all of the different bids in it because people like to look at the differences and.
Sure. You know, a lot of departments already have the cameras, and then the ones that don't, the timing hasn't aligned with what we needed. So.
Yeah.
I know we've worked a lot with Arapahoe County to make sure that our system, can be used by the DA's office. I mean, in terms of the records kind of portion of that, we've coordinated quite a bit with Arapahoe County. The next one is a resolution for a contract agreement with, this is an easement agreement ordinance, and that is for the Big Dry Creek diversion project. Bill for an ordinance of police department budget supplemental. I think this still has to be moved. I know we've already moved this, but we're not ready. This has to be moved, Jade, to discussion of the police reform task force. So,
Okay.
Not that one. The bill for an ordinance of police department 2021 budget supplemental. That's the one that has to be moved.
Oh, I understood. Sorry.
Thank you. And then we'll have a vacation of public right-of-way on Grant Street, an IGA for emergency management services to the city from the county. No change in cost on that. And then vacation of public right-of-way for Swedish for the roadway vacation.
But that can be consent. That wasn't it a 7-0?
It was.
Great. And then we have an ordinance authorizing an amendment to an IGA between CDOT and us for widening of the Dartmouth Avenue Bridge.
And that's on consent.
Mm-hmm.
So is the geological survey.
I believe
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. Those are all.
It's all consent.
You know, Mayor, at the during mayor's or city manager or city council discussion, you may want to ask council if there's still even an appetite for discussing in person. We would not be allowed to now.
I know we wouldn't. So why don't we just move it to? Yeah, I guess I can. I can just, which would be this week. This next week during study session, say we're moving it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it worth, I mean, instead of keeping it on this agenda, just making sure council understands that we couldn't if we wanted to now.
Right. Well, I wonder if we just put it in a parking lot and say when the state or when the county has made it possible for us to, then we'll come back on the agenda to discuss. Does that, and I mean, we
Reasonable.
could say that. I mean, yeah.
Do you want me to put that update on the agenda?
Well, let's think about this for a minute. Can we just send out an email to everybody to that extent that we've moved it? And we will put it back on the agenda when it's even a possibility with the health order for us to talk about it.
Mayor,
Yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
would it be appropriate to, because these health orders just came out yesterday, would it be appropriate for the city manager's office to send an email to all the city council members, number one, letting them know what the parameters of this health order are? Because I don't think all the city council members really know that yet.
No.
And then within that email, just mentioning whatever action items may have to be tabled until the order is over. I mean, this is an action item, but there may be one or two others that need to be mentioned to them as well.
I think that would be smart. And then, I mean, I can always mention it in my mayor's comments, just a reminder for the email we got. I'm not trying to keep us from having any conversation. People can say whatever they want, but it's not even up for discussion right now. I mean, that's why the governor called, was to make sure we were doing that kind of thing. But then the next day they make it impossible anyway. So I don't know why we were on that phone call last week.
Hey, Mayor, just real quick, we don't happen to have any idea how long we're going to be under this red ordinance. What came from Polis and Hancock yesterday was not a, through the end of December or through the end of November. We don't know that information yet, right?
We don't, and we asked yesterday on the phone call what would get us out of it, and it would be for all the numbers to go down again, and they're not expecting them to come down until the end of the holidays because they don't believe people are going to comply with all of this. I mean, we're hoping, but so my hunch is it's going to be January.
I guess from my perspective, I would still tentatively, I can't even speak this morning, it's too early. Anyway, keep it on the 7th, but then knowing that, or just waiting until we see where we're at after. I just feel that we should still
keep it on the 7th if we know we can't do it.
Right. Well, we're assuming that we can't do it, right?
Oh,
I agree where you're coming from. I agree that this may go on at least a month, but I don't want to just take it off just on an assumption.
Yeah, and my suggestion would just be to check in with council on it. I think it'd be better to have the conversation with council.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to, okay, just leave it on the 7th then. We'll bring it back then. And we'll have more information by then. And if we have a certain date for ending of it, then we can say, 2 weeks before that, let's have a conversation. But I do think it would be important to inform people in the email, as Allison suggested. When I was on the call with Tri-County yesterday, it was really, I mean, part of it's the way that usually people respect Douglas to just give us all the information, and one particular mayor interrupted and just kept interrupting, and we never got the full info. And so it was very, very confusing info about what was being actually asked. So it was like a free-for-all. I think people are so frustrated that they just interrupted and started asking questions rather than let him actually go through his little deal, his little spiel.
Yeah. Well, Allison and I will work on the communication on that.
Yeah.
All right. December 14th.
In that, could you also, and I'm not sure if people aren't aware of this, but could you put the link in it to the Tricities dashboard?
Sure.
Because people have asked questions from everything's there. You can click on hospitalizations. You can't get it quite as down, can't get it down to Englewood in that area, but you can do neighborhoods and things like that. And I'm not sure people understand. They can go on and look at it themselves.
Right. Will do.
Thanks.
December 4th, excuse me, December 14th, this is when we were bringing the police reform task force back to you. So as of right now, we just have 2 study session items. So there's some flexibility here. We have the off-leash dog task force.
Do you think the police reform task force is going to, how much time do you think that one's going to take? I think it's going to take at least an hour, right?
Yeah, I think the presentation on that is going to be for 40 something recommendations, and we're going through each one of them. Staff is, going to do their analysis. I mean, unless of course we've got that in writing, which we will, and council wants to just read it and then have a discussion, then we could have a very short presentation, but. I
would prefer that. I mean, I would prefer that people read it and we come in and we ask questions about it, but maybe a short 15-minute presentation and then we have an hour and a half set aside for conversation about it, asking questions. And what do you think? Or I know part of this is for the public to understand, but they can read the document as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that work in other cities differently, where you can do a shorter presentation? And
oh yeah,
I think you've been doing that well.
Council, yeah. I think probably we'll want to give. I think the 15 minutes is good, particularly for legal, because I think the implementation steps I'm already looking at. I looked at some yesterday in my one-on-one with Cheryl, and so just as an example, I'm checking in with all council members to see, is this kind of information what you're going to want to see to make a good decision on these recommendations? And it's very straightforward what the police department is entering into our spreadsheet that we'll share with you, just on how we're going to implement, and then legal will be putting an analysis in as well. So.
Well, why don't we just hold those minutes as we know they're tentative right now, and if we get to a point where you think, okay, I need to go through this whole thing so everybody's understanding this all at the same time, again, you can go longer in the presentation then.
Okay. Sounds
Whatever
good.
you think would be best, but I think we need to plan 2 hours for that evening, for that at least at the outset, and maybe it'll be less, but.
Yeah. I also think on the off leash, since this is going to be really held up by the survey, which we want to do, which Christina is getting ready to send council a copy of that survey to weigh in on the questions and that sort of thing. I think that this discussion won't be quite as long as maybe we were originally thinking, because we're not going to have results by this time. And I think council and certainly the task force wants to get that survey data before council, really tries to make another decision on it.
Okay.
All right. So we do, before we go on to January, Jade, we've got a couple of items that we have talked about needing to add, and of course I'm blanking on those right now. Not the ones that yeah, go ahead.
I've heard of, is one possibly the DDA?
Yes, thank you. It's the one I brought up on Monday night. So this might be a place, because we've only got 2 study session items and the whole meeting is a study session, that we could put that conversation in. It's a little far out, but we can at least have a discussion before the end of the year. In all my discussions with council members one-on-one, there seems to be an appetite for having the discussion.
Yeah, I think that would be wise.
All right. And so moving on to January 4th, we've got the Board and Commission Handbook, recognition of Keeping Inglewood Beautiful, Holiday Lighting Award winners, Winslow Crane Planned Unit Development, origination, designation of the official posting place for legal notices, resolution appointing various board and commission members, police department 2021 budget supplemental, first reading, vacation of public right-of-way for Grant Street.
Isn't that the second reading? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You said first.
yeah, sorry.
It says bill for ordinance second reading in the item type, but then under the report title, it probably should read second reading of vacation.
Yes, it should be ordinance. My apologies.
All right, we've got the easement agreement ordinance, and that's for the Big Dry Creek. And then an IGA with Arapahoe County for emergency management. That'll be second reading also.
Let's see, something I saw there. Can you go up a little bit, Jade? I have a question about the grant. I know this is our the first reading for the vacation. What's the ex parte rule right now, Allison?
Mayor, I am looking at both of my screens and I'm not seeing the grant item that you're talking about. Oh, the vacation?
Yeah, sorry, Grant Street.
Okay, so that was a quasi judicial hearing, and the only evidence that can be considered by City Council in making their determination is that evidence presented during the public hearing. So there shouldn't be any ex parte communication, not between council members and not anybody else either.
I'm wondering, since we have such varied forms, if we might want to say that in an email to people.
I can get something out today.
I don't know. What do you think, Othaniel? I don't know that any of us are talking to anybody, each other. But even.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, even driving over there can be part of, can be breaking it, right? Or.
Well, honestly, it's the community. Driving over there and looking around is just part of existing in Inglewood, but it's communication that we need to worry about.
Okay.
So Mayor, just a quick question, just because I know it came up during the, I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to talk about. So is there any other information that council's going to receive staff on this? I'm not sure if that was a request. I don't think it was. Right?
Yeah, I don't think.
Because the Comcast coming up, and so that's like one item that I kept wondering about was whether or not that would come back to us.
And if that did, would we have to do a first reading again?
Right.
No, the public hearing was opened and closed. It wasn't held open for any additional information. So I think that whatever information has been provided is all that council will be getting on this.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe
if
that should
council wanted to reopen it, they could though, right?
Okay, so this is one of those places where our out-of-date code really is not helpful in guiding. I think if you were going to reopen it, you would have, at a minimum, you would have to publish that it was going to be reopened. It couldn't just be a spur-of-the-moment thing. Typically, if you're going to reopen a meeting, it's announced at the time this public hearing is closed, but will reopen on X day to receive additional information. Because it wasn't announced that it was going to be reopened, if the council decided that they needed more information before they could move forward, they would need to republish that they were going to reopen this public hearing to receive X additional information.
Okay. This is a newer one for all of our more recent council. That's why I'm asking about it. We haven't had one, I don't believe, that has been like this. All right, let's just remind people and see how it goes.
Mayor, I'll send out an email today and I'll do that overview of the quasi-judicial process, just because we don't do enough quasi-judicial public hearings for this to be second nature for anybody.
Yeah, I don't believe we've done any since these new council members. Do you think? the 1 years?
I don't really remember.
I don't think so, because I get really nervous because we've misapplied this law in the past in my experience. So I always get nervous that we're always breaking it.
Allison, could you also put in there, just because I have a question about it, whether or not if we do reopen it, does it have to go back through P&Z?
Yeah, it does not have to go back through P&Z. P&Z is done.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Allison.
Okay, where are we, Jade? We're on the 11th.
January 11th.
All right, so we'll have UDC assessment outreach findings. And by the way, we are going to send you that survey instrument as well. The one that we're doing surveys on all kinds of topics. That we're also working on a postcard that will go to all residents, informing them about the survey and where to find that, with some additional information about the process. Then this is where we moved the walkability in Inglewood. We'll have transportation safety and resident safety. So 3 items from your strategic plan. And then January 19, Winslow Crane PUD, Green Building Code on the 25th, and second reading of the Winslow PUD on the 21st.
And then our little retreat, which isn't a retreat, workshop day, is that the 23rd?
Yes, January 23rd.
We put that in there so we remember, so people remember. I can't remember if we've ever put that in this document or not.
You know, Mayor, I actually believe that we did. I apologize, it's not in there. And I believe you guys had talked about possibly moving the item on the 25th as well. I can go back and look at another sheet. Are you still interested in doing that? And I believe we may have put it on February 1st.
Yeah, I think we were gonna not have the meeting on Monday night, right? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what I recall.
Good.
All right.
That's January's gonna come before we know it. I know you need to get to a meeting, right, Shawn?
At 8:30, yes.
I
did have the one council request from Joe Anderson, and that was just for the area south of Dartmouth, east of Inca west of Inca cannot be used as a park or trail, that sort of thing. So he and I have worked that one out, the language. And then Dave Cuesta said council request, but I think it's actually just an item to bring back to council about the for the agenda for the elected mayor. So maybe we can do that in January or February.
Yeah, isn't that down under future topics?
Yes, it is. And we discussed that it would come back early in the year. It just hasn't been put on an agenda yet.
Yeah, maybe Allison, tell us how much time you need for that and when you think you can do it, and let's just put it on.
Let's look at the first study session in February.
That sounds good.
I can give you more details as we get a little bit closer to that, like maybe in a couple weeks, but it would help to have it on the agenda for that first study session.
Great.
That's all I have.
On our retreat, how are we going to plan what the retreat info or what that day looks like? Are you going to come to us with what you would like to see in that, or how are we going to come up with the?
Yeah, I thought we could just do that during the city manager's report, and I can just throw out some options of how we could approach that, because we're not really starting from scratch like we were last year. I think we have a little bit more flexibility, but we can lay out some potential options about how that could be done. And I could also talk to council members in my one-on-ones about their expectations as well.
I'm interested in something that we've never done before on this council and any council in the past, and that is to read a book before we come, or two even. And I'm really interested in two different kinds of topic areas, and I'd be curious about others, but I would love to read one on sort of smart city development that focuses on first tier kind of issues. I think they're different than a little town somewhere, you know, or and then the second one, and actually this is the one I'm most interested in myself, would be something around the segregation, the book Segregation by Design, or The Color of Law. I don't know if you've read either of those, but I would love to have us consider pre-reading, and that would mean doing something fairly soon so that they have a couple months to read it. But I don't know if anybody's, you know, if others would be interested in it. And I'd entertain something else if your development department said, you know, we'd really like you to read this, given the, you know, the Title 16 stuff, or Allison, if you have things that you think, you know, this is really a good read and it might be helpful to, I just think let's use some in between time if we could, but I don't know if there's an appetite for that.
You know, one of the things with Cheryl being on those one or two national committees that are focusing on some first tier issues, it would be interesting to know what that committee is giving her to read. I think that she would have a lot of information to weigh in on this topic, but reading the Color of Law that was an easy and fast read, but it really gives context to a lot of the social justice issues associated with community development.
Yeah, actually, she and I have had a conversation about this. She was positive, thought one or the other or both books. We were both reading them anyway as a result of our anti-racist book reading. So I know she's positive about it, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Sounds good to me.
Have you seen a council do that before, Shawn or Allison?
I've certainly seen white paper, kind of large white papers as part of the required reading. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, if it's going to be a topic on the retreat.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice to know sooner so we can buy books for everybody, get them to them, and then. Yeah.
You know, I think that this is to some degree an innovative thought, because the amount of information material that the city sends to a city council member to read every week is enormous. So I think most cities don't ask them to also read any books. But I think where we're at as a nation is that there's so many things happening to change the world right now that governing, you're looking at innovative methods of governing to address some of that. So the idea that this is an innovative thought going into long-term planning, I think is really interesting.
I do too, and I'd like to have a little bigger idea, broader idea with some good background to be making decisions and to think about things I hadn't thought about before. So, yeah, and partly of it comes out of some other committees I'm on in the state or the local area that we're talking about, and these are some of them that have come up. All right, you have a meeting, so do we need to adjourn this?
Say that,
talking about this, so.
And I would say that maybe you can bring that up during mayor's comments.
Yeah.
Because then you decide on a book and get something more.
And would you all think about other ones that if I'm missing the mark on something, that if something else pops into your head, I'm certainly willing to, or anybody could put some ideas out there, but I'll bring it up, certainly. So it's 8:27 and this mayor manager meeting is adjourned.
Goodbye.
Don't make you late for your meeting. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.